Okay. I probably was them up because we only had 100. Okay. Might have to we're just gonna have to say we're out because we didn't expect these guys. Hi, folks. We're a big group. This is probably the biggest numbers we've ever had at a workshop, so our timing must be really good with this workshop. For those folks just coming in, all we can offer you is a seat on the floor. You'll notice that, of course, the screens at the end of the room and there are screens at the end of the tables. You know, situate yourself wherever you can comfortably see a screen and not feel too crowded as best you can. I suspect, have run out of the handouts. Like I said, we weren't anticipating these numbers, so I would encourage folks to share as much as you can. I'll just say a couple things about what's on the workshop sheets, the handouts, and then we'll get started. So we also have distance people on with us, so you want to keep whispering and paper rustling to a minimum, especially since we're such a large group. And, you know, pay close attention, be prepared to take good notes, stay off electronic devices that might distract you and your neighbors, unless you're taking notes on them. And it is very important for you to be taking notes for this workshop, paying close attention. So just a couple of items about what are on the handouts.
I'm going to borrow yours for just a moment. I'll give them back.
So there's a gray handout that has Writing Center information on it. You'll see our contact information, our hours. We have shorter hours through the 14th of September, and then you'll see that our longer hours kick in. We encourage you to come to the Writing Center for help with your writing anytime you need it, including this media analysis assignment. Come to the Writing Center and we can help you. You'll see answers to commonly asked questions about the Writing Center below that, and on the back side, instructions on how to schedule an appointment online. You go to the Writing Center page, click on the Schedule Appointment button, and pick a time that works for you. The gold sheet has our list of workshops. You can see what is coming up next, the APA documentation workshop. For those, you don't use APA documentation in most English classes except for business writing. Other classes, speech, communications, School of Ed classes, psychology, and so on, use APA documentation. Notice that workshop is at 4 o'clock instead of our usual 7 o'clock next week. There are other workshops coming up that might be helpful to you. How many of you are in English 101? The workshop that's on the 19th and the 26th, those are for the synthesis workshop, both the writing and summary and the power of synthesis. So good workshops for you to attend. And of course, on the back side, MLA documentation follows after that, and that's the style you're using in your English 101 class, and other workshops that will be useful to you as well. The blue sheet, which I know we also ran out of, how to write a media analysis, and that's advice from the writing consultants, because they see you coming in, time after time with this particular assignment, and so they have some savvy advice for you on pitfalls to avoid, things to try to do in your media analysis. We'll have more of these handouts available in the Writing Center that you can get if you come there. So without further ado, Chelsea Campbell, who used to be a writing consultant and is now an instructor in the English department as well as a graduate student, has graciously volunteered to lead this workshop for us. Please give her your complete attention. Take good notes.
Hey everybody, this is really exciting. I'm so glad to see a bunch of new, eager to learn about media analysis faces. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I have a lot of stuff planned, a lot of activities, hands-on stuff for us to do. First, I want to start with a pretty basic definition of analysis, and then talk with you guys a little bit about, why do we analyze? And not even necessarily why do we analyze media, although we'll go into that, but why analyze in general? Like, what purpose does it have for you beyond this assignment? First, thinking about analysis, it's a detailed examination of the elements or structure of something, typically as a basis for discussion or interpretation, the process of separating something into its constituent elements. Another way to think about it, some synonyms to think about analysis, is an examination, an investigation, an inspection. So when you're thinking about analyzing something, think about yourself as an investigator, right? Looking at all the little pieces and coming to a conclusion about it. I bolded examination and interpretation in the definition because I think that's where we want to go. We want to examine something and then come to an interpretation about it. But why analyze? I mean, there's going to be situations in your lives, and you're all here, I'm assuming most of you might be freshmen, maybe sophomores, but you're all here to learn a trade or some kind of career, right? Whether it be a nurse, whether you want to go into coaching, teaching, maybe you want to be a lawyer. But let's think about, what might a nurse have to analyze in her day-to-day job? What might she have to examine and come to a conclusion about, he or she? Yeah, absolutely. What's going on with this patient? Absolutely.
Just a piece of advice so that everybody can hear you. If you're close to one of the mics, hold down the mic button and speak into the mic so that everybody can hear you. Yep.
If her patient's gonna die? Yes, absolutely. What might a coach have to analyze? What might he or she have to figure out? What might a coach have to analyze? Yes, players. What's going on with those guys and gals out there? What kind of plays need to be made? Absolutely. We'll go with teacher, and then we'll move on. What might a teacher have to analyze? Their students, how are they doing, right? Moving forward into the little more personal, do you ever analyze your friends or the text messages they might send or what your significant other is sending? Is there a difference when they text you K period versus like? Yeah, it is kind of loud, so if you could keep it down. I encourage participation, but it would be harder for others to hear if there's a lot of chatter. So, situations where you might be analyzing your friends. Do we agree? Do we not agree? You agree? Okay, yes. The point is that we are analyzing things and drawing conclusions about things all the time, and it's useful to be able to practice that skill. And I think the media analysis is a good way into that, into practicing those skills. So why analyze media? Maybe discuss with your table groups, and then I'm going to call on a couple groups to answer. A few seconds. Why do this?
Maybe break down what's true or what they're picking up, what you can trust. Good talk. Good talk. Yep. Which parts we have?
Yes, because we printed out about 100 of those blue sheets, and we ran out.
All right. Let's come back together here. Table number 2 over there.
Find the deeper meaning of it.
Find the deeper meaning, absolutely. Yes. Oh, I saw a hand raised back there. You got this. You totally got this.
We as revolves around our daily life.
Yeah, it's around us. It absolutely surrounds us. We can't get away from it. So it's important to think about, what are these things actually saying? I think there's a way to analyze, and you can do this with anything. I think it's a 4-step process, and we're going to walk through this process together. First, it starts with making observations. Quite literally, what do you notice? What do you see? And what I like to do is literally just write down everything that I see as much as I can. We're going to practice doing that. The next thing that I like to do when I analyze something is find patterns. Are there words that are being repeated? Are there ideas that are being repeated? Are there themes that keep coming up over and over again? It's important to notice those things after you make your observations. Next, you're going to want to come to some sort of conclusion about what you're seeing, okay? Like, what's the purpose of, if love is coming up so many times, then what's the purpose of that? Use your own knowledge to decide what ideas are really being conveyed in the media, either by what is said or represented, what you actually see. And it's important to also think about what you're not seeing or what is not being said as well. Because remember, when we see a piece of media, choices are made for that to be constructed, and many other choices were not made. So it's good to think about, why this choice? Why not other choices? And then the final process of analysis is to come to your own interpretation. Can you say something new that you've come to based on the steps that you've gone through here? It's hard to say something new about something if you haven't really picked it apart first, right? We're investigators here. We need to look at all the pieces and see how they're making up the whole. A couple of tips that also appear on this blue sheet here. It's important to remain objective. I mean, choose something you care about, but if you love it a little too much or you hate it a lot, it's going to be harder to remain objective. Examine the media for what it is and what it's doing. Don't forget the purpose. I mean, when we think about it, the purpose for most of the media you see, advertisements, entertainment, they're going to try to tap into your wants and your needs in order to accomplish their goal. And what might their goal be? An advertisement, entertainment, money, right? They want to get paid, and they want you to buy their product, right? That's what keeps the world go round. If you ever have questions, it's always a good idea to review the assignment. You should all have the PC guide, if I'm not mistaken. That's on page 27. Before you start an assignment, make sure you're following all of the expectations. And of course, if anything I say happens to contradict with what your instructor requires you to do, always do what your instructor wants you to do. But just a little disclaimer there. But we'll move forward. Now we're going to look at some ads, okay? For those who might have more difficulty seeing the smaller words, on the green picture, it says truck driver. On the right, it says doctor, professor. On the blue picture on the left, it says butcher. On the right, it says artist. In the very small corner, it says, get the respect you deserve, and then Ugmerk, opticians, okay? So we're gonna pick this apart a little bit, and we're going to follow this process. First, make observations. You can either work with by yourself, you can work in a group, but generate a list of as much as you can of literally just like, what do you see here? And you can reference this sheet as well when it talks about asking yourself key questions. What is the message? What are these images, colors, sounds, typeface, layout? Literally just write down everything that you're seeing.
I don't have this. I'm gonna call the writing center.
Just right now, I'm just having to do this. So maybe we should fill it.
You like what you're
Oh, yeah, that was.
But you had
Like stereotypes.
that's right.
Okay, let's come back together here and let's list everything that you're seeing. Go ahead, just jump right in there. Glasses, okay. Yes.
Your professor and an artist are more sophisticated than a truck driver or a teacher.
Okay. Yes, she said professor and artist, more sophisticated. More sophisticated than the truck driver or the butcher. What else are we noticing? Good.
Perceived intelligence.
Perceived intelligence. Yes. Yeah. How do you arrive to that conclusion? You or anybody can jump in. What brings this idea of offensiveness? What's offensive about it? Yes.
Not to add it, it makes that people who do not driving think they're on a
Yeah. Absolutely. You're spot on. So there's this insinuation that people who do jobs such as truck driving or are a butcher are somehow lower. And what brings you to that conclusion? Or what kind of words are there? I know it's hard to see. In the corner it says, get the respect you deserve. So I think that's where some of these they need to use microphones. So.
Yes, please use
Okay.
your microphones when you're speaking. Just hold the mic button down, speak into it. That way the people online can hear you as well. Thank you.
Okay. Other things we're noticing, what kind of design choices did they make? Let's talk about that a little bit. Are they real people or are they animated or cartoons? Okay. So they're cartoons. Why do you think they made that choice?
It's less offensive to insult a cartoon than a real person.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lori. Perhaps there's something, it's less offensive to insult a cartoon, even though the message is the same. Do we notice that they're essentially the same people? Just different with glasses. Anything else? Did we get it all? They're both men. They're both men, okay. Yes. It's interesting that you say that. I want to direct your attention to the next slide. This is the same ad campaign, okay? So they're both men. Now we get a lady, okay? We finally get some women's representation here. How is the woman represented? On the list? Yeah, absolutely. They're going right into that trope. Sex sells. Absolutely. On the left, if you can't see, it says easy. On the right, it says hard. Okay? So like, whoa, what does that mean? And for the gentleman here, we see Hell's Angel on the left and fashion designer on the right. So is there any difference between what we're seeing here and what we're seeing here? What do you guys think? So over here we established, okay, truck driver, butcher, professor, artist, these are people doing jobs, guys doing jobs, and we've established that the left side is like, we're supposed to see it as lower, and the right side we're supposed to see it as higher. Are all of these ideas carrying over into the same campaign here, ad campaign?
This is more about your personality rather than career.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. The woman doesn't really, there's no jobs here. Like easy isn't a job, hard isn't a job. The gentleman, fashion designer, is a job, but still we don't really have a job assigned to the lady. And then the guy on the left here is associated with a gang, right? So pretty controversial stuff here. But yeah, you guys have done great making tons of observations. So thinking about the patterns that we see, what's the common thing in all of these? You guys noticed this already. The glasses. Yes, absolutely. We'll hang on to that pattern, although I think there's others. We noticed that most of them are men. They all have the same skin color. So there's some other patterns too, but the glasses keep coming up.
So there's a comment from online.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So online, Isley says the photos provide stereotypical images of people in society by adding one small accessory, this product that is trying to be sold. That person has taken up a step that they will be more respected if they use the product.
Yes, absolutely. Insinuating that if you use the product, absolutely, you will be more respected. So then essentially, yes, they're selling glasses, but at the same time, they're also trying to sell you respect. And they're doing that in a pretty controversial way. So yes, you guys are there. You're already drawing conclusions. You guys moved past just that concrete evidence and got into those insinuations. There's this insinuation that these jobs over here are lower, or not as deserving of respect. Absolutely, you guys are doing great. Yes, I brought up this one because I thought it would be a good challenge in thinking about remaining objective, right? That was one of my tips. One of the first tips I had. And I debated about bringing this one in because people feel really strongly about it. It's caused a lot of conversation, a lot of emotional reactions in the past couple of days. And so I thought it would be a good exercise in, can we remain objective about something and put aside whether or not we love the message, hate the message, and actually look at it for what it is. And I mean that in the truest sense. So I do have another set of questions that we can think about too, and these are the same things that I talked about before, but I added more questions to think about, okay? So when making observations, it's good to think about who is the audience for this media, who created it, right? For what purpose media created. Remember, they want to sell, entertain, perhaps bring awareness to something. What techniques are used to attract your attention, appeals, so on and so forth. And a lot of these, I think, are on your blue sheet too, so if you can't see this or want to come back to it, reference that blue sheet as well. Also under drawing conclusions, I have some other questions to think about. What values and points of view are being represented? How might different people react? Are different races, genders, sexualities, classes, ages, or abilities represented? And we saw that in the first set, right? We saw different genders, although they were represented differently. We saw different classes represented differently. Just through classes. How wild is that? Or is there an absence of representation? Remember, so when we saw this, you know, everyone has the same skin color, so that's something to think about. Does this advertisement tell us anything about moral standards or cultural taboos? And then what message do you think this piece of media is sending? Okay, so again, going through that same process, making observations, finding patterns, drawing conclusions, and can we rise to the challenge of remaining objective? Go ahead, you can work on your own talking groups, but I do want to talk about this a little bit more in a minute.
I think there is more about patriotism and racism. We're trying to prove that the reason he's doing this is because that's what he believes in. So he's not sacrificing everything.
I would love to see that.
And what he believes is America is being racist. What? He's not against America. He's just against the unequal. Unfair. That's not America.
Hey, what's that white paper?
I don't know.
You
Is
have
that
the
what
one?
they know that was here?
I think there's one at the end. This is like, this is like,
This is a really
like they can record.
so they can take a picture. White trash.
We definitely have enough.
Yay.
Don't get very many pictures of enough sheets. I only know the two.
You know, it's, we can get by. Go ahead and photograph them. Oh, it's really a public event.
Wait, is this?
How we doing, guys? Okay. I hear there's some good conversation going on. Awesome. Yes, we will tap into those online comments as well. I figure, let's come back together. Super happy that you guys are talking about it. That was the goal, right? I figure it would be valuable to go through these questions one at a time. You guys did a fantastic job here by jumping into like drawing some conclusions, you know, steps 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. But I really want to stay in the observation right now instead of drawing conclusions about it. Literally, I just want to talk about what do you literally see right now without inserting an opinion about it. Okay, so based on what you see, who is the audience for this media and who created it? Nike, yep. Who is the audience, do you think? Who is this directed towards? Athletes. Yes. Would anybody like to add?
Yes, online, adding it, this is powerful, the quotation in the ad, because it can relate outside of the world of sports, which Nike is marketing to as well.
Thank you, yes. That's also an interesting thing to notice. It's also tapping outside the world of sports with this message. Good job keying into that. For what purpose is this media created? What does Nike want to do?
Inspiration.
I hear selling, yes. They want to sell a product. I also hear inspire. Even though there's no product.
They want to sell a product by causing controversy.
Okay, do they want to cause controversy? Right now, I still want to keep it in the observation. We can move into that idea about controversy later, but right now, just observation. So moving into what techniques are used to attract your attention? Yes, close-up photography. Focal point of the eyes. Yes.
The filter they used, it's dark and bold.
Yes. Filter is dark. We've got that black and white filter going on.
Nike logo.
Nike logo, yes. The Nike logo is at the bottom.
The man has a really penetrating glance.
Okay, yes, noticing his expression. Is there anything else we want to bring out here? Did we cover it all? Okay. Moving into the next one, what appeals are used? Did you guys learn about logos, ethos, class? All right, cool. So we know what they are. Logos, thinking of logic. Ethos, thinking of, oh, I see some hands raised. Nike, okay, we've got the ethos of the brand. A spokesperson or a representative can also add ethos as well. So we've got Colin Kaepernick also providing ethos as well. He's a representative of the brand. Okay. Anything, I think, what else would be good to notice? The text is in the middle, front and center. So we have Colin Kaepernick's face, front and center, but then we also have this text that's right in front of him. Like it's unavoidable, right? You can't not see that message. As opposed to their brand, which is center, but it's not front and center. You know, it's not necessarily the first thing you might see. Okay.
They use pathos with a controversial issue, and so a lot of people have strong opinions about it.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely tapping into that pathos now. We see that word sacrifice come up, believe, and those words are definitely going to tap into that pathos, those pathetic appeals. Absolutely. And something it's saying is sacrifice everything, which is a pretty big statement, right? There's making sacrifices, and then sacrificing everything is a big thing. So are there any words, ideas, or themes coming up here? Yes, no? Are we noticing a pattern? Yeah, there's this call to action type of idea. And what is it calling you to do? Believe in something. Does it tell you what it is? What it is you should believe in? No. Yeah, I hear some no's. It doesn't say directly what you should believe in, but we're getting some kind of idea because of the representative, right? There's a brand telling us to do something through using Colin Kaepernick. Moving into values, now we can move into some of that controversy I know you guys are probably itching to talk about. What values or point of view is being represented here?
Individualism.
Okay, individualism.
The Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm just going to type BLM. Yeah. What did Colin Kaepernick do? Yes. So what we understand his message to be from what he's explained is that, you know, he has knelt at football games, and what Colin has explained is that this is for the Black Lives Matter movement. That's what we understand his message to be. I understand there's disagreement, but that's just what Colin Kaepernick has said. We're just taking what he is all about at face value for what he says. Yeah, okay, so we know what's going on here, what Colin Kaepernick is about, what's going on. Do we know what it means, what it's referring to with the sacrifice then, when we think about Colin's situation? His career, yes. Okay. So thinking about representation, right? Thinking about race, gender, sexuality, And I'm not saying an ad necessarily has to hit all of these things, but is it tapping into something here? We've already mentioned the Black Lives Matter movement, so it's definitely tapping into race. Is there anything else, or is it just about race? Freedom, okay.
Nonviolent protest of social injustice.
Nonviolent protest, social injustice. Yeah, and I'm seeing some of that go into the next one too. Does this advertisement tell us anything about moral standards or cultural taboos? What we know about this is that it's controversial. We're pretty aware, or we might be aware, or you might have heard of, people taking their Nike stuff, burning it, what have you. And then on the other side, people are praising this campaign as well. As we get further and further into these questions, it's really easy to think about your side or like your feelings or your emotions for it. But at the same time, I want to bring in this new idea, okay? So going back to what we've noticed up here, we decided, or you guys decided, the purpose for this media, for Nike, we can't forget that Nike is a company, right? Okay. And the purpose of this particular company, this sports brand that sells shoes, gear, athletic clothes, they're trying to sell you something, right? I mean, the ultimate point of this is to make money. And then it's also controversial. What do people do when we are presented with a controversial thing? We take separate sides, but what do? We talk about it, yes. And what does a brand want you to do? They want you to talk about their brand, okay? So, my point is, this was an exercise in remaining objective, right? And I'm not calling any side right or wrong, because I'm trying to also be objective here and not insert my own opinions, though I do have my own opinions, right? I am entitled to that. What I'm trying to say is if you're getting too far into your own opinions, don't forget what the original purpose of something is as well. It doesn't matter to Nike necessarily if you're going out and burning their products. But what might matter is that you're talking about it. What do you guys think? I mean, talk with your groups. Do you agree? Or do you disagree? Let's have a conversation.
I see something. And then they have
We have a sibling. We got reading videos.
I was like reaching for one too, and then I felt
Really hot. Tomorrow night, right? So that would be bomb ideas for watch the intro. How to write it. How to write it. 21 minutes on the
Okay. I hear so much chatter. It's fantastic. Yes. Talking about Nike is exactly what they want you to do. Just talk about us. We love the attention. That's me speaking as Nike. All right. So what do you guys think? I'm curious to hear. Do you think it's more about Nike siding with a particular side and promoting a particular side, or is it about getting you to talk about their brand? Yes, if you wouldn't mind speaking to the mic.
It's definitely to make you talk about their brand, because if you really think of it, you're either buying these Nikes because you support this movement, because you support Colin Kaepernick, or you're buying it so you can take it home and make a video of you burning it. Either way, they're making money.
Yeah, okay. That's a great point. So you're talking about the brand, either you support the movement and the brand, or you're buying it and taking it home to burn it, or you've already bought it and you're burning it. Absolutely. What else did you guys talk about? Oh, yes.
So I believe like Nike, they did it to pick controversial kind of guys. So like picking him, you're either on one extreme or the other. So like there's obviously going to be like rebuttals against this. So I feel like to get that you can talk about the product.
Yeah, okay. What was the last part you said? To do what? You talk about the product?
Yeah, so like rebuttal, like to talk about it.
Yeah.
And like Nike obviously picked him for a reason. Like they knew it would draw attention, so it was like a strategy on their part.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even think about, coming to these conclusions, even looking back to those most basic observations. They want to bring your attention to something controversial. They're not choosing an image of Colin Kaepernick in his jersey, a full body shot, or, playing on the field or whatever. It is a very close-up picture of his face. It's really, really hard to miss. It's really, really hard to miss the words on a black and white background, right? So we got controversial picture, right up in your face, message front and center. You can't avoid it. It's almost like you can't avoid talking about the controversy. Yes, it's what they want. But yeah, even going back to those most basic observations that you're seeing, how is this contributing to that overall message, right? They knew this would draw attention. They purposefully picked a controversial guy, right? They didn't pick, another athlete. Any other comments? I'm going to add one more level to this, okay? What about the fact that Nike uses child labor to make their products? Did you guys know that? I see some head nods, yeah. Okay. Would we consider that ethical? Getting little kids to make our shoes. I mean, we don't like to think about it, but it. Do you want to say that on the mic?
Sure.
Awesome.
We don't think it's ethical, but we don't do anything about it.
Okay, yeah. That's a great point. We don't think it's ethical, but at the same time, we don't do anything about it. It's true. I own a pair of Nike shoes, right? I certainly don't think I'm on the high road here. We all engage in these kinds of things, even though we don't like to think about it. Okay. But we don't think about it. So what is something like an advertisement like this doing if it's bringing in these ideas of, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything? Someone brought up earlier social injustice, nonviolent protests, a lot of these things where ethics kind of come into play, like is this ethical or is this right or not? And yet at the same time, we know that this company also uses child labor in order to make its products. So what's going on there? If a brand is taking on an ethical message, or perhaps taking a more activism role, is it making you think that the brand is also ethical? I mean, because they are trying to appeal to one side of the audience.
If you please hang out until the end, I will distribute comment cards so that you can get, if you want an instructor notified that you were here, you will need to fill out the comment card that I will be distributing soon. So please give Chelsea your complete attention right now as she nears the end of her workshop. Thank you.
Great, thanks for coming.
To answer your question, I think it depends on what you believe is ethical.
Yes, right, so what we believe is ethical. We know that they're appealing to a certain side of what one side feels is ethical, right, because of, what Colin Kaepernick is standing for. So we do know it's appealing to one side, right? There's a reason why another side wants to burn stuff. Do we think we are ethical, if we subscribe to this side or not? I hear a lot of chatter. Can I get your attention, please? Okay. Do we think we are being ethical when we talk about controversy? And if it's related to a brand, is this brand trying to sell some kind of ethics to us? Even though they do stuff that is not ethical. Yes. Yes.
So I think that they are trying to tell us that we as individual people can do our part to be ethical and good people, even though they are a corrupt corporation.
Okay, yeah. I mean, they're certainly engaging in some corrupt practices, but they're also telling you this message, you can be ethical if you buy our shoes. You can be an activist if you buy our shoes. And if you don't agree, then you're also being an activist for the other side of the argument. What it all comes down to, if you're talking about the product, whether it's controversial or not, you are promoting the product. So, we have a few minutes left. My point was to get you to think about, what does media actually try to get us to do, right? How does it get us to think about the decisions we make, the things we feel, or influence even the conversations that we have about our own ethics or morals? Any questions about analysis? Right. You guys have been fantastic. I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys even take pictures?
What?
Would you guys take pictures?
I took pictures of people around. I didn't have everybody at this table have them because I ran out. So I didn't take pictures of you guys.
Oh, I'm right there.
Oh, great.
Is this all we have to do, or do we have to just this?
I have one of those. Yep.
Thank you. Here, up. Sorry. Thank you.
Don't think I won't record it.
I just get some my deal.
It's just sweet.
Back to this.
You might have to cut the fire. Thank you. That makes it work.
Yeah. And you can give these comment cards back to
Yeah,
Liz
really
or
opened
me
my eyes.
when you've gotten them filled out.
Filled out. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Who has not received a card yet? Comment card. Thank you.
Do you know what Miss Cameron's first name is?
Yep.
Can I just write Miss Cameron? It says me first and last.
Look it up.
I don't know.
You might have to play computer with that.
Put, is it English 101? Okay, put on Miss Cameron and English 101. Okay, we'll find her. Anybody need a comment card?
I was hoping on the website, I'll take the person something to read computer. Yeah.
Yes.
Check out what we did, like.
Yeah, I probably was on
We gotta do that. I didn't have my like.
Remember you made the first time you remember you made the jump on camera?
Yeah, when I was like 15. Because I was 19. Remember,
Don't spend any more time on that one. You don't want to have
Just me. She's like, I have to tell her. Yeah. It was. I was like, that might have been the only time I was about it. Huh? Really about it. That was the only time? That was the only time I ever had to tell.
Not because the video is so it's something about society. So that's So if I were you, I would immediately have video starting with a sentence like, the 3-minute video, title of it, discussing
There you go. And here's some extras.
Right, bottom part.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I don't know.
Jake was in there. Who teaches 101?
What's her last name?
Oh, she doesn't have a
face. If she writes down, write down when your class meets, the day and the time and the room number, if you know, the building number. And we'll find it.
Yeah, I can find it in just a minute, and then we'll.
Yeah, there's an extra one there. This one here. Ah, perfect, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that stack over there.